Winner of Survivor Amazon. Rob.
Well, unfortunately, my dream did not come true, and Rob did not win Survivor the Amazon as we all thought he should have, but it's fine. Now, today, we finally cover the winning tribe, the tribe that raised the winner. It's Jaburu, and we're starting with number 8. And to anyone who's seen this season, it's no surprise who my number 8 is for Jaburu. It's Janet Koth. Every tribe needs someone that they can kind of point fingers to when it comes time to vote someone off for the first time, and Janet was just that. She was one of the older members of the tribe, and she was seriously malnourished almost the entire 6 days she was in the Amazon. To make matters worse for her, the wrapper of an energy bar was discovered at the bottom of a food crate, and accusations of whoever smuggled it were flying around like it was a battlefield. Most of them were saying it was Janet who took the bar. This is really giving me some real Jerky Gate vibes, like from Australian Outback. She did plead with her tribe mates, though, that she was innocent, and if she was getting voted off that night, let it not be because of the bar. See, even she knew that her time was up one way or another, so just kind of goes to show how doomed she was from the beginning. I feel like I didn't see enough of Joanna. I mean, she seemed to be a relatively helpful player, so I'm shocked she got sent home so soon. For the first few episodes, she had a secure spot in the tribe, but she did begin to derail a bit when they won the first few immunities, and she was complaining about having the idol at camp because it conflicted with her religious beliefs. Something about how possessing an idol goes against the commandment of, you shall have no other gods before me. And as a fellow Christian, I sort of understand her discomfort with that, but given the circumstances, I think God would have understood. The final nail in her coffin came when her hardworking attitude alienated her from the Central Jaburu Alliance, and Dina pulled some strings to get her sent home, as she was worried Joanna would be a physical threat down the road. You know, I'll be honest, I was fairly optimistic about Jean as a player. She seemed to be calling all the shots and rounding up the troops alongside Dina, and they both seemed to be in a pretty good spot. That was until the tribe swap, where Jean, Heidi, and Christy transferred to Tambaki, and Tambaki lost that following immunity, and instead of forcing a tie on gender lines, Heidi stabbed Jean in the back and sent her home. Jean is, in my opinion, a very underrated player of the first 6 seasons, and I think she'd be a huge candidate for a second chance season. Shawna was interesting, to say the least. Everyone on Tambaki was pining away at her, essentially, and Shawna was sitting pretty for the first few episodes, and no pun intended, until she hit a proverbial wall, overcome with fatigue and losing the general will to continue on. Luckily for her, some testosterone was added to the mix in the tribe swap not long after, and she seemed to magically buck up a bit, an observation Dina famously makes when watching the Tambaki guys first joining Jaburu. She immediately grows close to all 3 of the men, even getting a little smitten with Alex, and by now Dina's a little annoyed, so the next chance they had to send someone home, they booted the wishy-washy ready to quit one day to making out with someone from the other tribe the next, Shawna Mitchell. Definitely respect Dina as a player. She was sort of the leader of Jaburu and reminded me a lot of Kathy from Marquesas. She had all the Jaburu going into the merge wrapped under her finger, except for maybe Christy. I don't know if she was really tight with anyone in particular all season. Some people will say that Rob Sesternino was so great because he flipped on his alliances all the time. But Dina was just as impressive by forming alliances with both women and men. You know, you'll say Jenna and Heidi did the exact same thing, but Dina did it first, teaming with Rob while the other women just kind of looked at him and went, oh, he's funny. I mean, going into the merge, Dina pulled Rob and Alex in and rallied Jenna and Heidi to blindside Roger. Dina took 2 men and convinced them to vote out someone from their own original tribe, and sure, Roger was kind of hated by everyone at that point, but he had allies too, so it still says something. Dina carried on into the next episode by finishing the job and getting Dave out, but it was the next episode after that was her end. By now, people were low-key scared of Matthew, and Dina set her sights out for him, but once he ran the tables by eating the challenge, she literally swallowed a bug alive in one gulp. Crazy. the dude's a beast. He won immunity because of that. So now the only other option for the alliance was either Butch or Christy, who weren't really detriments to their game at this point. Rob, Alex, Jenna, and Heidi decided to turn on Dina and send her packing, which sounds stupid but was pretty smart because she was a physical, mental, and strategic threat, and once Butch and Christy were gone, who knows what she would do. For someone who is basically the Survivor equivalent of a floater, why do I have Christy so high besides the fact that she placed 6th overall, which is pretty good in my eyes? Because she did the entire thing without the apparent luxury of hearing anyone or anything at all. That's right, Christy Smith is the first and only deaf contestant to compete on the show Survivor. And I'll admit she did pretty good for having the handicap. She struggled early on because it was hard for her to read lips at night, and her fellow Jaburu teammates weren't the most inclusive of her. Despite occasional quarrels with people, she managed to dodge enough votes at tribal councils before she was transferred to Tambaki at the swap. There she made more meaningful connections with the members of Tambaki, and she found herself in a pretty good spot from there. At the merge, she sort of flew under the radar. She came close to winning some challenges, but ultimately never was at the front of a big move, nor was she at the center of any controversy. Fast forward to the final 6, Rob jumped ship to Matthew and Butch after burning his bridges with Jenna and Heidi, and he also looped Christy in with the idea of getting Heidi out. Jenna wins immunity, and along with Heidi to try to get Christy on their side, so it's this kind of battle over Christy. This is where Christy begins to fall, however. Shortly before council, Rob checks in with Christy to confirm that she's voting for Heidi alongside them, yet she also has made deals with the ladies as well. At this point, she hadn't really made up her mind. Her lukewarm response left Rob uncertain of her loyalty, and he approached Heidi to convince her to just split the difference and get Christy out. And Heidi agreed with that, got Jenna on board. He basically went to the woman he was planning to eliminate and got her to vote someone else besides himself out. Heidi agreed with, Jenna was still very skeptical of all this, as you could probably, it's not surprising. Jenna even gave her immunity that she won to Heidi to keep her safe, but they all voted out Christy in probably one of the most heartbreaking blindsides yet. She's definitely someone I would want to see come back for like a second chance season, or even an all-star season. Sure, Jenna won the season, but by far she's the most unsatisfying winner of the first 6 seasons, hands down. Without a doubt, I was left so unsatisfied with Jenna winning. And yeah, let's look at the other winners. Richard, he was playing the game hard all across Borneo. Sure, maybe Kelly, there's like some alternate universe where Kelly could have won, but Richard was our guy from the beginning. The producers, the editors made it completely obvious that this dude, like in literally the first episode, Richard even says something about how there's already a check written for him for $1 million. So we know Richard's gonna be the win. And Tina was sort of the underdog against Colby. So, her upset win wasn't really frustrating to watch. Ethan is just a nice guy and a good strategic player, and let's be honest, Kim Johnson didn't do much at all. She basically all of a sudden won like a bunch of comps at the end, and that's what got her that far. Vesepia from Marquesas flew under the radar and played a very good strategic game, and you know what? Screw it. Even Brian from Thailand was a more worthy player than Jenna. At least he was like some sort of mastermind that got in good with everyone from the entire show. Jenna? I just don't know. She was a good strategic player, I guess, and it didn't hurt that she won almost every immunity comp in the final episodes of the season. I just felt like she was always riding Heidi's coattails, and and she did way less than Heidi did, hands down. That's all I really have to say about Jenna. I mean, I guess I don't really know who I would vote for still between Jenna or Matthew. Like with the other seasons, like I said, I would have voted for really every winner except for the Outback. But yeah, I just don't know. I'm leaning right now more towards voting for Matthew, but I don't know, because this is one of the wackiest final 2s of Survivor history. Okay, so in a perfect world, the final 2 would have been Heidi and Rob. And most people would agree with me. Not only would it have been a haven for fanfiction, well, I think that's a little bit of an overreaction, but I mean, come on. Rob had the hugest crush on Heidi from the beginning of the season. Them at the final 2 would have been hysterical. But it's not just that. It's also really the only acceptable final two that comes to mind for this season. These two were the revolutionary kings and queens of the Amazon. What I mean by that is, when they were in Tamaki and Jaburu, the other competitors were calling all the shots as they appeared to be as people like Rob and Heidi appeared to be the naive younger people of the tribe. But once they made it to the merge and those older people had all been either gone or were soon to go home, the younger castaways rose from the ashes like a phoenix, and nobody did it better than Rob and Heidi. There were two duos at the final six, Jenna and Heidi, and Rob and Matthew. Jenna and Matthew were essentially the cheap knockoffs of Heidi and Rob, for sure. And yeah, maybe Jenna had won more comps than Heidi, I guess, but let's look at the winners thus far. Richard only won one immunity competition. Tina and Ethan didn't win any. Vesepia won only like 2. And Brian... Never mind about Brian. He won everything, really, in the post-merge. Either that or he just tagged along with the people who did. Anyways, Heidi was just all around a better player than Jenna, At one point, Heidi even contemplated cutting Jenna early to benefit her own game. I don't care what you say, that's stone cold and kind of awesome. I'm not saying that Heidi should have won. I mean, she was perfect runner-up material, because even though she was great, yeah, Rob is where it's at. And one more thing. Especially considering that, as we've already established, Jenna is just the cheap knockoff of Heidi. Why on earth was Heidi not in All-Stars? And Jenna was? Sure, Jenna won, but come on, guys. Only Jenna and Rob were representing, the Amazon. And that's no, you should have had Heidi on there. She would have been great. I don't know why she wasn't. But that's basically all I have to say. Well, that's the end of this video. At the end of these Survivor videos, I typically talk about my favorite contestants from the season, and I looked at these contestants from a mainly unbiased side for ranking these, which is probably why this time there was a little bit more, it was kind of in, the order of they were, I'm pretty sure both rankings, it was in the order of their elimination, except for, 1 and 2 were flip-flopped. Because, for Tambaki, for example, the order went, the order of their eliminated up until, Matthew, who is basically the top highest placing Tambaki, and Rob was the second highest placing, and I flip-flopped them, and I did the same thing for Jenna and Heidi of Jaburu. That was a really long tangent, but you know what I mean. But I guess I'd say that my favorite castaway, it's kind of obvious at this point, Rob. Rob is my favorite castaway from this season. And my kind of the runner-ups of my favorites would probably be Heidi, Matthew, Christy. Those are probably the other 3 that I liked the most. But yeah, that's it. I'm trying to think what video, honestly, with school and all the videos that I planned, I don't even remember what's next. I think I'm gonna do a Hamilton video next. I think that's what I have planned. And then I have a bunch of other stuff that I have planned. I'm not gonna tell you what they are this time, because I want it to be a surprise. It's not gonna be anything special, but I want it to be a surprise. So anyways, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later for when I decide to talk about Hamilton for some reason.